All right. What is up? What is up? We are tackling the last pre-training camp Dynasty startup mock draft today. The rookies, I believe, start reporting tomorrow. A couple teams, veterans, I believe, start reporting tomorrow as well. By the end of this week, pretty much by like Saturday, I think every NFL team should have their rookies, their veterans into training camp. You guys know we will be covering a lot of that news on the fantasy football news of the day shorts that I did and TikToks that I did last year. We obviously had some big news that we'll talk about throughout this live stream as well, with DeAndre Hopkins signing with the Titans. And then by 4 p.m. today, we'll probably also have more news, whether or not the three running backs, Pollard, Jacobs, and Barkley, have signed their franchise tags. Of course, the other franchise tag player was Evan Ingram, who got extended by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So going to be really fun here. So we do have the draft filled. It is a 12-team PPR Superflex startup mock draft with a half-point tight end premium. The rules will be at the top. So anybody that is in the draft, just keep in mind it is a half tight end premium and it is a Superflex draft as well. We will flip this one over here. You got it pulled up, Danny?
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen real quick. Let me actually share the tab. So give me 1 second here. All right, perfect. So we're waiting on one person now. It actually just filled as I said that. So perfect. I'll go to 125 Zoom and randomize this bad boy.
Yep. Draft order will be randomized. Like I said, the rules, the scoring settings at the top of the screen there. You could see them if you guys are in the draft. Got a couple people in here. I'm going to hit start draft, 60 seconds per pick. Nobody get fired by auto picking. You hate to see that. Done with all my startups, but still glued to the content. You love to see that as well. Had an invite in my email for Scott Fishbowl 13 and I missed it. Saw it this morning. You hate to see that. Boys, what can we try and get for Swift? Anyone, and he's off my team. Honestly, I would take an early 2 plus like a small piece, most likely.
Yeah, even if it's a 2026 one straight up, I'm taking it. Like, just give me the liquidity.
Absolutely. Just happened to be looking at my phone when the link popped up. Let's get it. Yes, sir. I'm picking at the 111. Danny's picking at the 108, by the way. Swift is worth a bag of peanuts. Almost football time, boys. Absolutely. I'm very excited. We get to a point in the offseason where we just want to talk about new stuff. At least that's where I get to. And this is the point in the offseason that I want to talk about new stuff, because we've been dissecting dynasty players and, redraft players and stuff. And I'm going to have a video on Wednesday breaking down some of the best training camp storylines to follow for every team, so that we know battles and that kind of stuff. So you're up, Danny. What do you got?
Yeah, I was just going to say, typical FSC room. I was praying one of those 7 quarterbacks got back to me. I really like Justin Fields as well, but he's like the cutoff for me for the quarterbacks I would take over the 2 wide receivers. So I got to stay true to my board. As much as I like Justin Fields, he is the cutoff given the potential insecurities with the job situation. Like, if he doesn't take a step this year, there should be significant concerns over his long-term viability compared to these guys. So for me personally, my next rated player would be Justin Jefferson. So I will take him with the 108.
Yeah. What players direct for Swift? I'm going to actually pull up my trade value chart, AJ, and just tell you exactly who we have listed there. Also, for what it's worth, big time rankings, news. This week, we will be dropping our redraft rankings manifesto. You can get that. We'll post it to the site. If you're a site subscriber, you can get it, or you can get it by signing up and first depositing on Underdog Fantasy. And that will have the redraft cheat sheet that we had last year. And then we're also doing a big rankings update for the site, for our dynasty rankings, for our best ball rankings, and that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that this week. And I will also update the trade value chart in addition to that stuff also. So you mentioned Justin Fields. Looks like he's the best available player for me on the board. If he wasn't there, I would have been excited to build a Bijan team. I just wanted to see kind of how that would look, but I can't pass on Justin Fields here. So I'll take Justin Fields.
For what it's worth, who knows what Schmidt does? Maybe he doesn't go Bijan. You could still make a Bijan Fields team, because although you got the quote-unquote younger asset with Fields, he's every bit of a win-now type of asset that there is. So unfortunately, you do get sniped on Bijan, but it's kind of weird that we're talking about a 23-year-old quarterback about his win-now appeal, because I do think that is the main allure of Justin Fields. Obviously, if he hits and he has that long-term stability, he signs a contract extension, you're getting the best of both worlds. But if that happens, he may legitimately be in that top 6 overall area, given the rushing ability and given the overall production ceiling he has in any given season. Because this is a guy that has the ability to rush off for 1,250 yards. He's got the ability. I mean, he ran for 1,100 last year and he started slow.
Yeah, I broke him down in the what makes like a league-winning quarterback video. I am a little concerned about Justin Fields regressing a bit from the big play
Okay.
rushing standpoint because he did have 6 runs of over 40 yards last year, including like 3 60-yard touchdowns, which is pretty crazy. So, as good of a runner as he is, if he runs cold in the long runs and the breakaway runs, he might be a disappointment just given the passing volume or lack thereof that we're probably expecting from the Bears offense. I think they'll increase a little bit with the addition of DJ Moore, but I wouldn't expect this team to suddenly be a top 5 or 10 passing unit. It'll still probably be a bottom 10, bottom 5 type of offense in terms of overall pass attempts. So when we're talking like redraft standpoint, I actually have bypassed him the most in underdog drafts of all of the top 9 quarterbacks. So from Mahomes down to Watson, I prefer all of the other guys at value relative to Justin Fields, because as it currently stands, he's kind of being priced as if he's the same as Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. And I just don't think so. I think he's a lot closer to Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and Deshaun Watson than he is to Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
It is tricky though, because he was a legitimate, like down the stretch, top 3, top 4 overall quarterback. Like this is a guy averaging over 25 points per game. So I do understand, because people are pricing him like that's going to sustain over a full 17 game sample size. So anytime we're kind of pricing in the ceiling to the certain degree that we are right now, it does give you a little bit of hesitance. So I do understand that sentiment.
Yeah, and I posted the article version of the what makes a league winning quarterback to the site. And when you look at like Justin Fields's his like ratings when it comes to like, does he hit the averages for pass attempts? Does he hit the averages for, his offensive ranking points per game? Does he hit the like across the board? He misses pretty much everything except for maybe his offensive line's a little better than we're expecting, and the fact that he's going to run the ball in the red zone. That's pretty, he like misses by a wide margin on pretty much everything else, which makes him, in my opinion, one of the riskiest early round quarterbacks that there is. He could absolutely take a step forward, maybe pass the ball a little bit more, still keep up that, 1,100 yard, like 8 touchdown baseline as a runner. But he is way more risky, in my opinion, if you're going to go for a running quarterback than Lamar Jackson, who's priced similarly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. But yeah, no, I'm about to be back on the clock within a few picks. But so far, this is, not a typical Danny Ladd team, because I will say for the majority, I will be going with 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds, but still being able to anchor my wide receiver core with Justin Jefferson, knowing that he's going to give me that elite point production. I'm building more of a win now type of contender. Get Dak Prescott in the second round. You can argue between him and Bryce Young. I think that's a toss-up. For me personally, again, because I want to win now, I do go with Dak Prescott, who I think can help me better in the first year. So I'm rocking Jefferson and Prescott. You're rocking their Fields and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, once he comes back on the field, obviously going to give you an extreme advantage at quarterback. And Justin Fields, I mean, we just talked about him, that although, like you said, the price point in redraft in the 4th round around Lamar probably is a little bit high, he still got the ceiling to potentially be the quarterback 1 in fantasy.
Yeah. So back to AJ's question here. He said, what players direct for Swift would you trade? At running back, I have Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, and Zach Charbonnet around the range that I have DeAndre Swift, all labeled as like a late first rounder in terms of value. If you're talking about at other positions, the guys that I have labeled as a late first rounder at wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman Jr., Treylon Burks, Chris Godwin, Marquise Brown, DJ Moore, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper, and Jameson Williams. So those guys are all, again, similar, projections in terms of overall value for DeAndre Swift. And then at quarterback, I'd probably be looking at, I can just go to it again. I have Will Levis, Trey Lance, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, and Geno Smith labeled as like a late first rounder. I might actually adjust where I have Trey Lance value, because his market value has slid quite a bit to the point that I absolutely don't think he's worth a late first rounder anymore. I think he's more of like an early to mid second. Even if you're high on Trey Lance, I still think that's probably where he should be valued.
Now, with that being said, if I could buy Trey Lance straight up for DeAndre Swift, I would.
Yes, I probably would as well, but I'm probably, for what it's worth, also going to move Swift's value down a little bit too from a late first rounder. I think he is closer to the like Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco's of the world in that early second rounder range than he is to like Javonte Williams, Najee Harris's of the world, who are more in the late first rounder type of range. So Andrew's there, pretty good value for a contender.
Yeah, I was just going to say a third tight end off the board. Obviously, Kelsey going at the 2.9 there. Cal Pitts going at the 3.5, getting Andrews at the 3.8. So I'll take that valuation. Not to mention it is a 0.5 tight end premium. 0.5 obviously isn't a heavy tight end premium realistically, but for the top options, it just helps them separate a little bit more. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I really like this question because it's really interesting to me that I think the Treylon Burks pendulum will almost swing in the other direction for me. Because I was adamantly selling Treylon Burks before the Hopkins news. And if the pendulum swings far enough, I will be adamantly buying Treylon Burks. If
Like,
everybody's so worried about Hopkins to the point that he's going to get buried in dynasty rankings in the 40s or even in the late
oh, that's not
30s or mid
happening.
30s, like Burks's outlook hasn't really changed all that much. And in fact, too, Hopkins is a very good mentor for Treylon Burks. So,
Yeah.
the fact that I wasn't really in on Treylon Burks' breakout season from like a raw production standpoint this year, it actually bodes well for him because I do think if he shows good peripherals alongside DeAndre Hopkins, maybe Will Levis close out the season starting at quarterback, and maybe he has a decent close to his season, then Treylon Burks might actually have some good value. And not to mention, I broke down DeAndre Hopkins as somebody I'm just straight up not drafting in redraft. I think he's at the 10-year age cliff, which Ryan Heath outlined in his wide receiver kind of breakouts article that he wrote. And also, DeAndre Hopkins has fallen off by many metrics. He was like outside the top 80 wide receivers in separation ability. And a lot of the GMs came out and said that he might be over the hill and that they're not super high on him anymore. So I'm not really bullish on Hopkins in general. So the fact that I'm not kind of leans me towards if people are going to be scared about Hopkins or about Burks, to probably send out some offers if you can get him. Somebody asked if Jameson Williams, like I would rather have Treylon Burks.
Yeah, with ease. We got a super chat here quickly from AJ. When now should I move Swift for Mixon? I have Brown. I don't want to buy Mixon with Swift, to be honest.
No, I would
I'd
not
want
either.
someone else. Like if it was like Mixon and a 2 for Swift and a 3, I could maybe make that a little bit more plausible because it's like, okay, I'm getting points and I'm also getting a pick upgrade, so it's not bad. But there's a non-zero chance that Mixon gets the Zeke treatment this year and he's a dead asset after the year.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page. Like Joe Mixon in the short term. People are going to be very excited about Joe Mixon. They're going to be, oh, he's back to his like workload. He re-signed a team-friendly contract to stay there. And while that's all true, the wheels could still absolutely fall off of Joe Mixon. And he has this like extremely high risk of injury now, given his advanced age, given his touches. He was so inefficient to the point that it wouldn't shock me if mid-season we're talking about the Bengals backfield as just a complete and utter running back by committee. They could sign somebody like a Kareem Hunt, week 3 or something, if he's still on the waiver wire, and rotate in Mixon, Hunt, and Chase Brown. Like, I don't expect Joe Mixon to just immediately have this immune situation where no matter how bad he is, he's going to get 40, opportunities every like 2 weeks. Like, I just don't see it as possible. I think if the team is low on him to the point that they wanted him to take a pay cut, it means that his job security is in question if he plays poorly, which I think he will because he's no longer a good running back.
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense. How many first do you believe you can get for Field? Superflex, of course. It's tricky with his market right now because in some rooms, I feel like 3 first is pretty attainable for a guy like that. But at the same time, in other rooms, like I wouldn't sell for 2 first, basically is what I'm saying. If somebody's willing to give the 3rd first in terms of equatable value, I'd be willing to do that. But some rooms, I feel like people aren't willing to offer over 2 first. So in that type of situation, I would most likely just hold them.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. With Fields, he's worth 3 firsts, and if you can't get 3 firsts, it's probably a room thing, and you're probably better off holding him for that price tag. And maybe your room is just never going to value quarterbacks that way, and that's something that you'd maybe need to keep in mind when you're taking our advice, because we do value quarterbacks heavily. But even still, I'm not selling him for 2 firsts unless they're like projected. Maybe one of them's going to be early. Then you could maybe talk me into 2 firsts, but I probably still want 3.
Fired Zimmer.
Yeah, absolutely fired.
What was I gonna say? I mean, to be fair, if you're in a room that devalues quarterbacks, maybe you can use Fields as a leverage piece. Like, for example, the next comment said they used Fields plus 24 first and second, probably going to be late for Joe Burrow. That's a fantastic type of trade. If you could make that type of trade, upgrade from a riskier quarterback as a listen, like I love Fields. Like, you guys know how high I've been on Fields. He's my quarterback too. Obviously, I was advocating for him to be a late first round startup pick, even during the end of the season, like even before like he truly broke out. I said like this is going to be a guy who sees a meteoric rise. At this point, though, we're kind of pricing him as that elite longevity quarterback. but he hasn't exactly proven it at an NFL level. Again, he's got the opportunity to have a Jalen Hurts level ascension where he's an early to mid first round pick in the startups. But I think all of those top 7 guys that went off the board just have way cleaner longevity projections.
Yeah, and they're all, going to provide you close to, if not better, point production than what Justin Fields can provide you in the short term. Like, I have all of those guys ranked over Justin Fields in redraft. And that might be a hot take. Maybe you would prefer Fields and Fields over Herbert and Lawrence. I prefer both of those other guys over Fields in redraft just because of the unsustainable nature in which he was rushing last year.
For 4-point passing touchdowns?
Yeah, I would prefer. I think I still like Fields. He's still my quarterback 8 in redraft, but he's like quarterback 5 off the board. So for me, I'm kind of fading him in redraft, which means I'm also semi fading him in Dynasty a little bit as a result of that. But I still think he's a decent projection. If you're not on the board, by the way, just minimize maybe the draft board if people want to see. Actually, never mind. They probably want to see who the best available players are. You just scroll down and that kind of thing.
Speaking of the draft board, so far starting off Jefferson, Prescott, Andrews, and Kupp on a team I'm trying to win now. If we're looking at just the flexible players, you're looking at 2 guys who are going within the top 5 of redraft right now, and Andrews, who's going in the early to mid 3rd round area. Not to mention Dak Prescott being a top 12 quarterback. I'm pretty satisfied with the start, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. I end up taking CJ Stroud there at the 311. I already have 2 quarterbacks, so there's no reason for me to take CJ Stroud, but I don't think he should be on the board, frankly, at that point in time. Going after every rookie except for, like he would have been the 106 if this was just a rookie draft version of this startup as well. So to me, that's just too good a value to pass up. And if I'm, if I have a team of Fields and Murray, I'm probably not trying to compete. With that type of flexible start, I can go young. I can maybe go competitive if I wanted to, but taking Stroud to me is just, I'm going long-term potential and accumulation of assets, and Stroud at the 311 in a year's time, that could look like an absolute steal if he's a mid-second round pick. And even though he doesn't have the ability maybe to become a top 6 overall startup pick because he doesn't run as much as those other guys, if he's a young quarterback and he looks really good his rookie year, he's still going to be a mid to late second at the very lowest.
Yep. No, I agree there. Thoughts on drafting Mahomes mid-second if you got Kelsey in the first in redraft? Just curious. I think that's an appropriate value there, assuming like hypothetically you got Kelsey at the 6th overall pick and Mahomes falls in the mid-second. I'd be willing to do that if I know in the room I'm in, I can get value at the flex positions. If I'm in a more casual type of room and I can get away with that, I'd be more willing to do that. But it's tricky because do you think any of the top 3 quarterbacks can fall back to your mid-third is the question mark. What are your thoughts on this, Corey?
About Mahomes and Kelsey?
Mahomes and Kelsey, basically what I said is if you're in a room where you feel like you can get away with getting extra running back and wide receiver value in the early to mid rounds, so the rounds 3 to 8 area, I'm fine with doing it. But in most rooms, like if you can get any of the top 3 quarterbacks falling to the mid-third, I would rather just wait on one of those guys.
Yeah, I think if I can get Josh Allen in the mid-third, I'm absolutely passing on Patrick Mahomes. Even if I took Travis Kelce at like 107 or 108, I would still rather just take Josh Allen in the 3rd round.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. I'm on the same page. 1-year punt team looking to buy Jacobs Cheek. What's a realistic price considering the contract looming?
You got your one. Yeah. I mean, you're a 1-year punt team, though. Why are you buying Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, you're a 1-year punt. Don't buy Jacobs.
Yeah, if you're a 1-year punt, you should not buy Josh Jacobs. You should not buy any running backs, especially not any that are not solidified contract-wise long-term.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there.
I get it. Maybe he accumulates some value if you're buying because of the uncertainty that he might hold out. But I actually, of the 3 running backs that could not sign their franchise tag by 4 p.m. today, he is absolutely the one I'm most concerned for.
Oh, 100%. Well,
I think Pollard will sign his tag eventually. I think Barkley will sign his tag eventually and or get extended before 4 p.m. today. I'd be legit concerned that Jacobs would miss games as a holdout.
The way I look at it is Pollard's going to opt in because he has no leverage coming off the injury. Saquon Barkley, he either is going to sign it or he's going to get a long-term. New York seems like the team that would shell out money to a long-term
deal. He's also like, look at the difference between Daniel Jones as a quarterback when Barkley has not been in the lineup. Like it's a real problem. He is the engine of their offense. And if you don't have Saquon Barkley to threaten defenses, who is a defensive coordinator worried about on the New York Giants if you don't have Saquon Barkley?
Darren Waller, baby.
Like Darren Waller's not good enough at this point in his career to command that type of attention. Barkley's that whole offense right now. And Daniel Jones will look like a very bad quarterback if Saquon Barkley is not playing for the New York Giants this year. So I expect them to be close. There was news out of Dallas that Pollard and the Cowboys aren't close, and I expected that. I don't expect them to actually extend Tony Pollard. I think that he's probably going to hold out for maybe some of training camp and eventually come back and play games. Like, I don't think he's going to miss any regular season time.
If Ritter has a top 20 season, where does he go?
Well,
He has a
top 20 is a wide. I would say top 20 season. He could have a top, like Marcus Mariota. Was he a top 20 quarterback in points per game last year? He might have been.
He was easily. He was probably a top 15 quarterback in points per game, man. I remember
if you say top 15 quarterback and also he looks like an actual NFL starter, then I would say
Kenny Pickett
he'll probably be a 4th or a 5th round startup pick, man. Like,
to say what, Kenny Pickett area, right?
Yeah, like the question for Ritter is not necessarily what is his ceiling. It's more, is he actually going to be a starting quarterback?
You know, Marcus Mariota averaged 16 fantasy points per game last year.
Yeah, which is like pretty decent. Like, that's not terrible. So I think Ritter is interesting because he can run a little bit, but he also didn't really showcase that much in the 4 games that he started last year. But it is possible, you know, with the weapons around him, they can elevate him and elevate the offense to the point that Ritter takes a step forward. And I would say, like, when it comes to betting on quarterbacks with good supporting cast, it's something that I'm very likely to do. So I am more interested in Ritter than I definitely, like, I was not into Ritter coming out of Cincinnati. I did not think he was that good of a quarterback. But if a weapons group can elevate a quarterback, it'll be a guy like Ritter, who's like a distributor, smart quarterback, and he can let Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan carry him to a decent performance.
What you know about Marcus Mariota, Mr. Quarterback 17 on less than 25 pass attempts per game? Quarterback 17.
Kind of ridiculous. Yeah, so I would say the question becomes, AJ, if Ritter has a top 15 season and we're certain he's going to be the starter going forward, then he'll probably be a 5th round startup pick.
Agree with that. Got a super from Devontae. He says 12-team, 1 quarterback, start 9, full PPR. I'm contending and gave up Deontay and Gibson for a mid, 1st, and 2nd. They both wouldn't start on my team, and they're just I absolutely love this. You already know, okay, realistically, that these guys are depth at best. You now get yourself liquidity to probably get better depth in season. Come week 5, that team who's got Nick Chubb and isn't competing may take that first straight up. And you might even be able to aim higher realistically. If that's actually a mid-1st round pick, you may even be able to aim higher. You could be looking at potentially the 1 and 2, maybe buying you Christian McCaffrey if that team fucking folds over on him.
Yeah, maybe you can get a breakout season for Travis Etienne and somebody wants to offload him because they're not contending or something like that. Or it's Barkley maybe that you're going after, McCaffrey, like you said. Yeah, anytime you're contending, you always are kind of hesitant that you don't want to give up players that could help you contend. But at the same time, by the way, you should refresh your draft right now. But at the same time, when you're contending, if somebody offers you a deal for a player and the picks that you're getting are more valuable than the players that you have, like, you absolutely should take it. And as much as I like Deontay Johnson and Gibson at their like current value, that's adequate. Like, I would easily take a mid-1st for Deontay. I would easily take a mid-2nd for Gibson. So I think that's a pretty good move there. Yeah,
no, I would agree. Ritter is valued like he's a bottom 3 starting quarterback. So I was curious if I hear one more slightly positive thing about Mariota, I'll stop falling.
Yeah, that was it was probably not a very fun situation for old AJ last year.
AJ, you must be enjoying the new quarterback series, hearing Marcus Mariota explain his methodology last year, you know?
Ew.
What a series, by the way.
Didn't watch it, to be honest. Haven't watched it yet.
It's so funny because like the Mahomes bit's so interesting, and then you see the inside of like Kirk Cousins. He was a tough bastard. He's dealing with injury all season, like ribs, everything. And then it's just like Marcus Mariota on his own like journey. He's just a
snowflake who like left his team because they benched him. I haven't watched it yet.
So I haven't gotten to that episode. I do think it was actually like a family matter or something. But
okay, so maybe he's not a snowflake, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, yeah, no, it was just such a random storyline. Like, a part of the storyline, like, oh yeah, his like lifelong friend who he played high school football with is now like his personal chef and shit. And that was like a big main like character in his story. I'm like, okay, like what's going on
I
here?
feel like they couldn't have picked a less compelling quarterback than Marcus Mariota. Like, is
Bro.
Marcus Mariota the most boring quarterback I've ever watched in my life? Probably. Not only just from like a watching him on the field standpoint, but also his personality. So I don't know why we pick Marcus Mariota for this. Don't ask me why, because I'm not even kidding you. Like, remember how unwatchable Tennessee was before Ryan Tannehill got there? Like,
Yeah.
they were the most boring offense I've ever seen in my life, and Atlanta was a pretty close second last year when Mariota was the starter. So I think as long as Ritter can be a distributor this year, Bijan's going to be the star of that offense. As good as London and Pitts are, Bijan's the best player on that offense. And
By far.
it's going to be really fun. I think Bijan can propel this team into the best team in the NFC South, and they could win 10, 11 games legitimately. I think they could actually win that many games. As long as Ritter doesn't fuck things up, they're going to be fine. Danny's just mid-sneeze here. Trading Stroud and Levis from this year's rookie class and a third rounder for in 2025 for a first rounder next year, in which I could get May. So if you're giving up Stroud and Levis and a third, you better guarantee me that's 102, or else you're giving up too much.
Yeah, if that's not a top 3 pick, you're going to get rinsed, realistically.
Because Stroud is worth about a mid-first in next year's class, give or take. And Levis is probably worth about a late first, early second. And then you're adding a third rounder on top of that. You need that pick to be one of Caleb, Drake May, or Marvin Harrison. If it's not, you're gonna be kind of disappointed with this trade.
By the way, why make this deal now when you have no clue where that pick's gonna be? Why not make that deal once the season's done or something? Like, you know what I mean? Realistically, like if the guy's buying Stroud and Levis, I'm assuming it's not going to be for point production in year 1. So what is like the time sensitivity of this deal? Like,
yeah,
it's not like
there's no reason for this guy to just like shove the chips in on 2 rookie quarterbacks, one of which who's probably not going to start until midseason.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, you got where we left off, right?
Yep. Andrew says, I was in Tahoe this past weekend for the golf tournament, played a couple games of blackjack with Baker and his wife. Cool.
That's awesome.
Okay. Tell him to throw the season, will you?
Yeah. You're probably way better at golf than me there, Andrew.
Yeah. That's really cool. Playing games with Baker and his wife. Why do you know what? You know, it's a classic trope that I hate. Why isn't Baker studying film right now? Remember when people, anytime that any NFL player has a life outside of football, they always get mad.
It's so funny though. It's like a tradition. You know what I mean? Like, but I just don't understand people's like fascination with that. It's like, okay, dude, like, do you expect these guys to be like football robots?
Honestly, I think it's 95% caused by Tom Brady.
Fair.
Because he's like the only quarterback in history that like won't do anything other than like watch film and like study football.
He's also borderline psychotic. I think people know that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it also doesn't look like it worked out too well for his personal life being that way too. So,
oh, dude. Well, I mean, you hear him talk. He's definitely like something in his personality where he'll like click into one mode or click into another. He's either super fucking chill or he's like cussing people out and like making them feel like fucking garbage. But at the end of the
I'm gonna
day,
miss Tom. I'm gonna miss watching Tom Brady. If I'm being, it's gonna suck. It's really gonna suck. Like, for those of you guys that are not Patriots or Bucks fans, you just don't know what it's like to have Tom Brady as your quarterback. Like, you can appreciate his greatness and all that kind of stuff from like afar, but it's totally different when he's your quarterback. You have absolutely no doubt in your mind that your team is going to be prepared each and every week, and you're so disappointed when they're not, to the point that it pisses you off. Like, it's one thing to like watch your Cowboys, Danny, and be like, oh, they took so many penalties and they were so undisciplined. It's like that. Just when it happens with Brady, it makes it that much worse.
No, I feel you on that. By the way, I was going to ask you, do you think there's a non-zero chance he would come out of retirement?
For the Bucks? I think he's done. Personally, I think he's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, like, it's more believable that he retired this year because last year when he retired, he was coming off a phenomenal year. This year, obviously, he's coming off not as. I bet
he wishes he stayed retired last year. Like, and not just because of the whole like thing that happened with Giselle and like the season and how it went. I think he just would have liked to have been remembered as somebody who went out posted probably MVP caliber season.
Yeah, facts. I was also gonna add, speaking of his love life, did you see like pictures of him with Kim Kardashian?
I did see that.
Yes. Dude, that would be like America's power couple, just like two of the most notorious fucking people in American history.
Yeah, I mean, We all would just prefer he stay with Giselle, even though she's not
Facts.
she's not American. I don't believe. I think she's like Australian or something, or
Oh no, I know. I didn't mean it like
European.
racial. I just meant like in terms of figures, like Kim K.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
it's a huge figure in both
know?
both sides of their industries. Like the pop culture industry, there's like few figures bigger than the Kardashian family. In sports, there's few figures bigger than Tom Brady.
If you had realistically off topic, but if you had like one relationship that both a guy and a girl can have like an in-depth conversation on, it would be Kim Kardashian
Oh yeah,
and Tom Brady.
yeah, it actually would. Yeah, it definitely would. Inbox offer: give Burks, get Deontay, win now. I love Deontay Johnson. Don't get me wrong, but the market appreciability of Traylon Burks would make me want more on top of
I
Deontay.
want Burks easily.
I wouldn't say it's easily for me, but I would side with Burks. And I would want, if you're giving up Burks to a contending piece like Deontay, does he have like a depth running back on his team that you can get on? Like if it's Deontay and AJ Dillon or, somebody like that,
That makes
I would
more
much
sense,
rather
yeah.
do a deal like that and pick up another depth piece, whether it's a running back, another wide receiver, maybe a tight end or something. That's probably what I would do. I think Burks for Deontay straight up I side with Burks.
Yeah, facts. So we'll get through some more comments. I just got to quickly go to this because it made me laugh. Chris is like, she's Brazilian, right? Mixed with post-World War II German.
Yeah,
Like,
she is Brazilian, I believe. That's what I was
Jesus.
thinking of.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason I thought she was Australian. I don't know why, but
No, to be fair, she doesn't like look like a quote unquote prototypical like Brazilian. You know what I mean? Like in terms of just like I would think honestly, like if I heard especially the name and everything, like Eastern European.
Yeah, that's what my thought was too.
No.
What are main reasons you're taking Jess and Jefferson over Chase? She probably does have some German
Volume.
For what it's worth. That would be the reason. Yeah. Volume, 100%.
Well, I mean, you got a guy that could legitimately have. It's a lofty goal, but he can. Would you be shocked if Justin Jefferson threatened for like 135 to 140 receptions?
No, I don't think that's a shock whatsoever. And like, it's funny that Andrew actually asked this question because the guy who was awarded the 101 in my home league, we did our lottery or whatever a couple days ago. He is a diehard Bengals fan, and he's like, talk me out of taking Chase over Jefferson. I'm like, Jefferson's simply a better bet, especially in a full PPR league. Like you have to like, but the other thing too that factors in a little bit
Touchdowns.
is that my league has big play bonuses, and that probably applies more to Chase than it does to Jefferson. But even still, I'm probably taking Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm probably taking Jefferson, but I will say it's like if somebody said, yeah, Chase is my number one wide receiver because I think he can have 15 to 20 touchdown upside. Okay, like if that's in his range of outcome, so I'm not going to battle back on that. You know what I mean? But Jefferson, like you said, in a full PPR, the projection is just good. The only quote unquote downside of Jefferson is you pretty much know he's probably going to be finishing within the 7 to 11 to 12 type of touchdown area. Whereas Chase, of course, has the upside that, he can catch fucking 18 receiving touchdowns this year.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Jefferson has a massive touchdown season. He was a positive touchdown regression candidate last year based on his usage, and he could have 14 touchdowns. It's not out of his range of outcomes. Not to mention their hammer in the red zone was Dalvin Cook for all those years. So if they throw more in the red zone, then Jefferson could score more touchdowns. But the nice thing about that for Hawkinson and Jordan Addison managers is that Jefferson will be doubled in the red zone probably every single play.
No, I that's actually a fair point because realistically, looking at this quarterback board right now, where would you put Cousins in terms of likelihood of throwing over 35 touchdowns? Because I do think Mahomes you can obviously bet on. Allen you can bet on throwing 35. Herbert's going to be up there. Burrow's going to be up there. Lawrence going to be up there.
I'll tell you right now, if I had to place a bet on who Cousins out, like having more passing touchdowns this season, you cover your ears. I think he's going to have more passing touchdowns than Dak Prescott. I think he's going to have more passing touchdowns than Tua Tagovailoa. I think he's going to have more passing touchdowns than, Kyler's not going to play the whole season, but even if Kyler was healthy, passing touchdowns, I think Cousins would have more. And then same with, he's going to have more than Fields. He's going to have more than Lamar Jackson. Like realistically, it's like Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow, Lawrence, and Watson maybe.
I'll bet on Prescott, but yeah, no, I do think he's well within.
Well, the reason I say over Prescott too is because the Cowboys do run quite a bit in the red zone.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, it's definitely the coaching because I mean KOC is much more likely to adapt to losing his running back than McCarthy would be in terms of expectation going into the year. No, I do agree, but like he's on that list basically is what I'm saying of quarterbacks that could realistically throw for 35 touchdowns, and we talked about what 8 guys that could do
Not
it.
even, dude. Not even. It's
like,
Mahomes, it's Allen, it's Herbert, it's Burrow, and it's Lawrence. And then maybe you
no, I'm
talk
saying like
yourself into
Cousins and
Watson,
Dak.
and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's just say Cousins, Dak, and Watson are in there. It's like 8.
Yeah.
So like that's what I mean. Like outside of that, like betting on those offenses receiving outlets is going to be much more beneficial because they can have the opportunity to have an outlier touchdown season. Whereas like as much as I love, Chris Godwin, like he's not scoring probably over 10 touchdowns this year with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. It's just the hard truth.
No, it's probably not gonna. I'd be shocked if either of Godwin or Evans cracked 8 or more touchdowns, just given how the offense is going to run. And we didn't have a lot of good, touchdown opportunity last year, but we also threw like the most pass attempts in NFL history. So I don't think. And with Canales coming in from Seattle, I think he's going to try and run more of like a ball control type of offense where we're not running the highest pace, the highest pass attempts like we were with Byron Leftwich, who like obviously is just a clone of Bruce Arians who wants to just throw. Canales is going to be more of like how the Seahawks were last year, where because he was their OC, they were going to use Walker in the red zone, they were going to use Metcalf in the red zone, they use Lockett in the red zone, but it's not like one or the other. Like they're going to mix it up. He's a way smarter play caller than Byron Leftwich for what it's worth. He's just not going to have the same opportunity. And if Baker's not playing well, which we don't expect him to be a world beater, he's probably a bottom 5 starting quarterback around the league, then it's pretty tough to get yourself to Evans and Godwin having more than like 7 or 8 touchdowns at their absolute ceiling.
For what it's worth, I just checked some player props on Underdog, and oddly enough, a guy that also has a really, really high touchdown prop is Geno Smith.
I would take the under easily. Take the lower on that, 100%. They're going to run in the red zone, and Geno Smith had 12 years where he wasn't like a good quarterback and 1 season where he was.
I agree with you. His prop is currently 27.5 passing touchdowns.
That's too high, dude. That's way too high.
That's a fucking lot, man.
That's a shit ton, man. That is a lot of touchdowns for a quarterback of 1 season of Geno. Like he was good last year. Don't get me wrong, but like, why is his prop? Is his prop higher than Cousins?
Cousins was 29.5.
Okay, so it shouldn't be higher than Cousins. If it is, that's ridiculous.
It's higher than it's the same as Lawrence's, and it's like higher than Dak's.
Yeah, I would. Lawrence is only 27.5. That's a fucking smash.
Dude, Geno had 30 and 17 games last year. Like you said, it was the only season he's ever done that. Not to mention, you're not even baking in the fact that that's at a full 17 games. He barely cracked that by 2.5.
Also had a rookie running back instead of a starting caliber dude in Walker now, and another rookie running back in Charbonnet.
Realistically, he misses 2 games, and that touchdown total is not looking the same.
Yeah. I think sometimes people don't factor in enough the tendencies of the teams in the red zone when it comes to what quarterbacks they're drafting, because having a stud running back, like as we were talking about Desmond Ridder earlier, like as much as Desmond Ridder might have some upside, how many passing touchdowns that guy got to throw in a game with Bijan on his team?
He won't.
Like they're going to run in the red zone more than any team in the NFL. Probably they have in my opinion, by the end of his rookie season, we will consider Bijan as the best running back in the NFL.
Easily. I don't really think there's many in contention other than maybe.
I mean, like McCaffrey and Eckler and those type of guys are considered better now, but I'm telling you, by midseason through Bijan's rookie year, we're going to be like, he's the best running back in the league.
I'm not even looking at either of those 2 guys. I think Breece Hall is going to be his main challenger.
Yeah, potentially.
He's
yeah.
Healthy, yeah.
But I would say as of now, if you had to rank the running backs in the NFL, the veterans would get the bump over Breece and Bijan because we've seen them do it for multiple years, especially when you see like big media outlets rank running backs. They still rank like Dalvin Cook as a top 7 running back in the ESPN thing around the NFL, which was ridiculous. But anyways, we have a lot of questions here. Let's try and speed through some.
Ryan says with ease.
Yeah. Oh, what the hell? Dude, Breece. I would take Breece over Eckler and Diggs combined.
Oh, same.
Without the first.
Yeah, same. Yeah. It's close.
He does say win now roster.
Yeah. I would straight up in a win now, probably lean Eckler and Diggs. But yeah, once you add the fucking first, like that's a cake.
Also, like, I think Ryan would be trading Breece in the first away. And he's saying it's a win now roster. So should I do it? Because I would get Eckler and Diggs.
No.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, as much as like Eckler is going to give you more production than Breece Hall this year, you want your winning window in Dynasty to be more than just this year. Like an Eckler and Diggs, they might only be top fantasy options for this year and this year alone. Brees Hall and that first are going to give you multiple years of production. And I can talk myself into an argument where Brees Hall outscores Austin Eckler. And anytime I can do that, then I'm absolutely not willing to sell a 22-year-old for a 27-year-old.
Yep, I agree. I would normally smash Will Levis here, but because I'm in a win now, I'm actually going to take Mike Evans because I feel like he's going to help my flex. Ooh, I think I have Lockett higher. I'm going to take Lockett.
I would take Mike Evans higher in redraft, so I would take
Really,
Mike
eh?
Evans if I were you.
You take Evans
also,
over Lockett
he's also
in redraft?
2 or 3 years younger than Tyler Lockett as well.
Fair enough. That would be the decision point, but I do think I would prefer Lockett to Evans in redraft.
That's pretty close though. Thoughts on Madison in redraft? Probably not touching him with a 10-foot pole. Realistically, he's going in a range where like you have to spend like a late 4th, early 5th rounder on him, and I just love so many of the receivers going in that area. And it's literally he's a dead zone running back. Like that's pretty much what we're talking about here.
He's a definition of a dead zone running back. Realistically, it's like people, anytime the starter gets released, people try to prop up the backup in terms of this talent that simply isn't there. Like Madison is a fine, sturdy, between the tackles, James Conner type of, big running back that can kind of do a lot of everything, but he's not elite at any single thing. Like he's not going to break away big runs. He's not going to be a huge plus in the receiving game. He's not going to carry the same type of red zone usage that Dalvin Cook did. So realistically, you're looking at a middling talent that won't get the workload that Dalvin Cook did because quite frankly, Dalvin Cook, given the contract, given what he did in the past, he wasn't as good last year, but a lot of that carried his name value, to be quite honest. Like that happens with Ezekiel Elliott too. With Ezekiel Elliott last year, the name value carried a lot of the value because people knew what he did in the past. So it was sort of like a respect thing. Like, you know what? We got to get Zeke in the red zone here over Tony Pollard because of what Zeke did for us in the 2016 to 2019 area, when in actuality, he just simply wasn't the same running back. So I know a little bit of a tangent, but he's not given, basically Madison's not given that type of benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Do you want to minimize the board just so people can see the full thing there? We also got, how do you guys value quarterback in a 10 team rather than a 12? If you're talking about a Dynasty Superflex 10 team, the high end quarterbacks, their value doesn't change a ton for me. Like I still value Allen and Mahomes and those type of guys the same I would as a 12 team, but Tua Tagovailoa, CJ Stroud, the guys that are in the tail end of the top 10 quarterbacks in the early portion of the 11 to 20 range, those guys lose a little bit of value because it's way more attainable now to get Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts as your quarterback than it was in a 12-team league. And having a guy like Tua or a guy like Stroud who have job security but not the elite ceiling that those other guys have, it's not quite as valuable in a 12-team Superflex, in a 10-team Superflex as it is in a 12-team Superflex.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly add to that as well. By the way, I'm on the clock here, so I'll quickly make a pick. I'll just take James Conner. Basically, when it comes to that, how I kind of view 10-team versus 12-team is those top difference-making players actually get me. They actually get more value. Sorry, that was completely worded weird, but they hold more value. Why do they hold more value? Well, it's a 10-team league, so therefore their point production probably carries more weight because there's going to be stacked rosters anyways. So I want the best of the best when it comes to quarterback, especially when it's an 8-team format, a 10-team format, a 12-team
That applies
format.
to one quarterback leagues too. Like a quarterback has more value in a 10-team league, in a single quarterback league, like in a redraft setting, because you want positional advantages. The same way that Travis Kelce has more value in that type of format as well.
Yeah. No, 100%. So that I would view the top end guys as actually gaining a little bit of value because of their wins over replacement, and the back end guys, like you said, even like once we get to
even Dak and Watson and Murray lose a little bit of value in that.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I would say all these quarterbacks in the top 7 are still like complete difference-making assets, regardless of how many teams. But yeah, once you get into this range, when there's more question marks, I would agree with you there.
Yeah. My bad. I'm back. That Q is not. That was my Q, not auto. So you're not fired. You're rehired.
You're good.
I plan on packaging the first with one of my other wide receivers to tier up. So this was the question that he asked that originally. So that mid one that he got for the Deontay deal, he said he plans on packaging that first with another one of his wide receivers to go from, I don't know, maybe he has DK Metcalf, to go from DK Metcalf to Chris Olave or something like that, or to somebody even better potentially. You might be able to get to AJ Brown or something. Would you go Lamar/Dak to start if he fell at pick
Lamar
7?
and then Dak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine doing that. That's basically what Danny would have done if Lamar had fallen to him.
Oh, if Lamar fell to 108, that would have been a home run start.
Yeah, that's exactly what your start would have been. I think
exactly what it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, 205's a slight bit a little early on Dak Prescott.
I have Dak Prescott right in that range.
I have Bryce Young rated over Dak Prescott, and I have Garrett Wilson rated over Dak Prescott. So,
so you're just lower on Dak.
What's up?
You're just lower on Dak then.
I'm not lower on Dak. I just recognize that he's a 30-year-old quarterback whose ceiling is probably capped at quarterback 6 from a redraft perspective. So I don't view him as the value insulated asset that Bryce Young or Garrett Wilson could be if they have the seasons that we're expecting to.
I agree with Bryce Young in particular, because I do think that if you want to prefer the age there, I think it's fine, because obviously, he's a 22-year-old quarterback versus, like you said, a 30-year-old quarterback. But I do have Dak Prescott well within that mid-ish type of second round area. Like, he's currently a player that I have right in the, Prescott, Lamb, Bryce Young, A-Rich, Garrett Wilson, all in it.
You would take Prescott straight up over CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, I would.
Oh, I would not. I would take Lamb over him.
Fair enough. I will never have to make that decision point because Lamb's going to go, but Dak's one of the quarterbacks I feel comfortable taking in the second. And as you know, I completely value going the 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds.
Right. The one question I will ask you is Dak Prescott ever going to go up in value from where he is right now? Ever?
Probably not. And that's probably a fair counterpoint, that he's probably not got the market attainability that the rookie quarterbacks have in particular. I will argue, though, that as much as I like CeeDee Lamb, like, his ceiling, again, is still probably an early second round pick. Right?
That's fair. Yeah.
And in terms of Garrett Wilson, like, he could maybe get to where CeeDee Lamb is, but that's even a murkier projection, I would say.
I think Wilson can surpass Lamb in dynasty value quite easily if he.
But
has
I mean,
I don't
mean straight up.
Where he's the only remaining wide receiver. I think. I guess Harrison will count once he gets into the NFL. That can catch Jefferson or Chase.
I agree. Now I'll say though that for me personally, I don't see Wilson's ceiling in terms of ADP being much higher than the 1-2 turn.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And the way I want to structure my teams, because I love my quarterbacks, not to mention in this situation, because I went Jefferson, I wanted the win now type of appeal, which is why I favored Prescott to A-Rich and Young. That's kind of, the methodology there.
Yeah, I mean, knowing I can get Cousins in round 5 makes it hard to press the button on Dak for me, though. I would much rather have a production bundle of Garrett Wilson and Kirk Cousins than I would of Dak Prescott. I guess you got both, but like of Dak Prescott and Brandon Ayuk, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson, Kirk Cousins.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I do think, though, the job security is a factor because the Vikings are rumored about moving off of Cousins.
Well, and he's older than Dak, too. But
yeah, he's like 35 now.
You're taking either quarterback in a win now, though. You're not drafting either quarterback to not be in a win now, so that's why it's kind of like when you're drafting a 24-year-old running back versus a 22-year-old running back. It's like, yeah, one's younger, but you're probably still trying to compete regardless.
That's a fair point. Do not have a quarterback? Yeah, no, I passed on. Oh, Matthew Stafford's actually the perfect win now quarterback 3. I literally have the definition of win now quarterback core with Dak, Cousins, and Stafford.
Yeah, very, very solid core there. What does Hopkins news do to fellow Titans dynasty value? Tannehill, Levis. Okay, so dynasty value, I think Tannehill enters the like Stafford range in terms of where I would want to spend like mid-second potentially on him if I was a contending team and I needed a quarterback 2 or a quarterback 3, maybe if you have Kyler Murray or something and you need somebody to get you by. Ryan Tannehill has a chance to be a starting quarterback elsewhere, a very good chance. Because in my opinion, if I had to rank the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, Tannehill would be ahead of like Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, some of the guys that are under big contracts right now. And I think if Tannehill hit the open market, Washington, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, somebody would pay him a decent 3-year deal.
I'll tell you right now, this might sound like a hot take. Ryan Tannehill is the most underrated quarterback in the league. That's not the hot take. The hot take is that he's closer to being a top 15 quarterback than he is a bottom 10 quarterback, I would say.
I agree. Yeah, I think you could make the real argument that Ryan Tannehill is as good as Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, like, or at the very least, he's like a variation, like a slightly worse version. Yeah. No, 100%. Like what people think Derek Carr is, Ryan Tannehill is much better than Derek Carr. Ryan Tannehill is Derek Carr if Derek Carr didn't have fucking stones for feet.
Pretty much, yeah. And not to mention like his passing yards per attempt and that kind of stuff. Like the numbers he put up from 2019 to 2021 were legitimate top 5 across the position. Yeah. Like we were talking about Geno Smith's breakout season. Like Ryan Tannehill was Geno Smith before Geno Smith with better mobility also.
hear me out. You know, it'd be a kind of funny. It's probably not going to happen, but hypothetically, what if the Falcons with the run game, similar to how the Jets were kind of winning this year, where they're running the ball, they're keeping things close, you know, maybe winning at the end. I think
Trading for midseason. Is that what you're about to suggest?
Imagine Ryan Tannehill got traded to the Falcons midseason.
I'm going to take Ryan Tannehill right now because, you know, I like that. Just casual. I don't need him. I literally already have 4 quarterbacks that have value on the open market, but I'm building out a productive struggle, and I see Ryan Tannehill as a value at this point in the draft. So
I agree with you.
But yeah, if Ryan Tannehill was the starting quarterback of Atlanta today, right now, are they the 3rd best team in the NFC?
4th. Come on.
Sorry. Are they? They're clearly the favorite in the NFC South. No questions asked.
But it's such a cesspool in the NFC that the Eagles, the Niners, the Cowboys are the top 3. If you want to argue anybody after
I actually forgot about the Niners and not the Cowboys. I thought of the 2 NFC East teams, but
respectable.
Ryan Tannehill leading the Atlanta Falcons would make them one of the best teams in the NFC, is my point.
By far. I would bet, okay. I don't know what their win prop would be with Tannehill. It'd probably be
9.
8.5? I was going to say like
8.5, 9 is probably what it would be.
I'd bet the over on that.
Yeah, I think they would win 10 games with Tannehill. Yeah. Or some of the teams that win 10 games in the NFL, are not that good at teams, and Tannehill leading an offense that all he would have to do is not screw it up. It's going to be a run-heavy offense. Just make the plays, get the ball to your playmakers. It would be great news for Drake London and Kyle Pitts, too, because they need some real quarterback play. And maybe Desmond Ridder can just be Ryan Tannehill, but that's a tough ask, man. The guy was, leading the NFL in, yards per attempt.
Keep in mind, Ryan Tannehill wasn't even Ryan Tannehill till, year 6?
Yeah, exactly. You need a veteran quarterback to kind of operate this offense. And also, not to mention, the Falcons' offensive line is way better than anyone that he had in Tennessee, too, when Arthur Smith was there.
Because, Tannehill's breakout season was, 2018, 2019?
19. It was A.J. Brown's second year, I believe.
Yeah, so that would have been his rookie year, 2019.
Sorry, yes, it was A.J. Brown's rookie year. Towards the end of the year that he took over, I believe.
So he got drafted in he was in the 2012 draft.
Yeah.
So it took him from 2012 to 2019 to fully hit his peak.
Yeah, I mean, he was injured for 3 or 4 of those seasons in between, but yeah, he was considered a franchise quarterback borderline in Miami, and then when he got traded, they traded him basically for nothing, and he was obviously way better than Marcus Mariota. Will Levis, it doesn't really affect his dynasty value, but I do think it's good for him to have a veteran receiver like DeAndre Hopkins. Same reason it's good for Treylon Burks from that perspective. I think Burks will see a downtick in terms of his overall dynasty value, but it makes him closer to being a buy than a sell for me. And then I think this is good news for Derrick Henry dynasty value because it makes the offense better, and Derrick Henry thrives when the offense is good. So it's definitely good news if you have Derrick Henry on a win now team as well.
By the way, I'm just looking at some of his Miami numbers, and I thought they were way worse than they actually were. He was actually a good quarterback in Miami, man.
Yeah.
That, his 3rd year in particular, 66% completion percentage, 27 touchdowns. Obviously has that mobility to his game as well. You know what was the reason that they traded him again? Miami?
He couldn't stay healthy, dude. That was pretty much the reason.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
They also were trying to tank too, for what it's worth. Remember, they got a draft pick stripped for tanking. And if Tannehill had started for the Dolphins in 2019, they probably don't even get to him. Maybe they would have gotten Herbert as a result, which would have been funny. But yeah, that's probably why they traded him, is because they were we're going to start fucking Fitzmagic this whole year, and he's going to get us a higher pick than Tannehill would. Or yeah, he's going to get a higher pick than Tannehill would. So
a quick thing I just want to say, it's so funny in terms of bang for your buck. Take this in. Miami traded, so I'm just looking back at the deal. Dolphins sent their 6th to the Titans for a 4th and a 7th, and the Titans got Tannehill out of it. So basically,
it's crazy. They gave up nothing for Tannehill.
A 4th round pick for a quarterback that legitimately played some top 15, probably even higher level ball. Games. Yeah, no, good for fucking Tannehill and the Titans, man. Really big tangent, but fuck, man. Gotta give him
dude, Tannehill, if he becomes, he's actually still one of the, he's been one of the best contending quarterback buys for a solid 6 months now. I feel like we've talked about him as a good contending buy, and now it's a little tougher because people are going to be, obviously hip to the DeAndre Hopkins news. So hopefully you bought him before that. Because he was a decent QB2 option before then. And I think he's going to go up in value if he leaves Tennessee, which is probably likely to happen because it sounds like Will Levis is taking things seriously, and he's probably going to get some starting opportunity, and they're going to want to give him a chance. It's not like Malik Willis. They spent a third rounder on Malik Willis. They basically spent a first rounder on Will Levis. It was like a top 35 pick. So they're probably going to give him a legitimate chance. And Ryan Tannehill will probably have played his last year in Tennessee this year.
I would hate to invest. Yeah, I mean, that's just not how it works, though.
It's not how it works, but I do agree with his sentiment. Like, I would want my player to be very, very interested in football. And
I would need my player to be passionate about football and still doing work on the side. But at the same time, it's like if he's not having a social,
these guys have lives and they have charities and families and stuff like that. It's usually they're not all football all the time. It's very rare that you're going to see that.
Well, just think of the effects on their mental health if all they did was football. Like, genuinely. Like,
if they're not Tom Brady, then it's difficult
for sure.
Also, we skipped Thomas's question here.
I didn't even see it. My fault.
Full PPR, Smitty or Wandale plus Charbonnet plus A-Chain and Josh. Okay, so Devontae Smith.
Side. What?
So it's Wandale plus Charbonnet plus A-Chain for Smitty.
Smitty, that's a lot of fucking noise for a good, really, really good asset.
Yeah, I'll take Smitty there as well.
I would hate to invest. Oh yeah, we read that. Have Pitts and Bijan full PPR best ball dynasty. Should I be buying ready for the stack potential? Also, it is a tournament style league with 4 leagues with advances like BBM. I mean, it just depends on cost, really. I'm not going to overpay just because I have Pitts and Bijan. But if
I'm absolutely not married to stacking Ritter with those guys. Yeah. I think those guys are going to be independently valuable without you needing to stack them with Ritter, because I just don't think Ritter's going to like Pitts and London are going to get their production that goes to Ritter as well. But my inclination is like most good Falcons drives are like London catches 3 balls on it, Pitts catches a big play, Bijan punches in the touchdown. Like that's how the good drives are going to go. So Ritter's not going to get a ton of point production in those drives.
Wait, I think he's talking about Baker.
Yeah, true.
Gisele's Brazil. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of Brazilian here.
What time does the franchise tag deadline end?
Eastern, 3 hours from now.
Oh yeah, let's go. Really concerned about Saquon Barkley. Ooh.
He's the one I'm absolutely the least concerned about because A, I think he has the best chance of getting extended, and B, I think he's the least likely to hold out into the season.
I'm the least concerned about Pollard simply because he has literally no leverage in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, Barkley doesn't have any leverage either, but he does have a little bit because he's more important to his team than Pollard is. But I will say, like, I expect if neither of these guys get extended, let's say none of them get extended and none of them side the tag at 4 p.m. today, I think that Barkley and Pollard will hold out for like a week of training camp and then be back on the field. Maybe 2 weeks of training camp. Maybe it's, a preseason game too. I'm not concerned that any of these guys, sans maybe a little bit Josh Jacobs, are going to hold out into the season.
Yep. No, I agree with you there.
If Cousins gets injured, Vikings tank for Caleb or May. They'd still be too good to get Caleb.
I don't know if they would, man.
I think they would. I think any quarterback that starts games for the Vikings could win 5 or 6 games.
Their defense is literal garbage.
It's pretty bad.
Which to be fair, like that's actually, I mean, I guess that's
not how you win games in the NFL nowadays, though. So I'll take the Vikings offense carrying whatever schlub quarterback.
I was just gonna say that was like another like counterintuitive, or sorry, not counterintuitive. That was another point, I guess, for when we're talking about Cousins and Dak is the main advantage there too is the game scripts that each are going to be playing in, because we expect the Cowboys to have a legitimate top 3 overall defense. And for the Cowboys, realistically, to not have to throw the ball 40, 45, 50 times a game, realistically. Whereas the Vikings, if they want to win at times this season, their best players are literally in their passing attack. They need to win with their passing attack. So I do understand that.
Yeah, they're also going to start every single drive on their own 20-yard line versus the Cowboys might have a bunch of, short fields and defensive touchdowns and shit because their defense is going to take the ball away a lot, which can work as a positive and a negative for an opposing offense because you want short fields to score points. But at the same time, like Cousins might lead, like, I don't know what the odds are right now, but Kirk Cousins leading the NFL in passing yards would be a legitimate one that I would be willing to take.
Yeah, like there's a possibility. I mean, if we look at his pure volume last year compared to years past when he was under Zimmer, it was fucking night and day. Like 643 pass attempts was his highest of his career. And it wasn't even close. He threw 606 when he was in Minnesota in his first year, 643 last year. The previous 3 years before last year, we saw 561 attempts in 2021, which was like the highest of that range, 516 and 444. So if 643 is a sign that KOC wants to throw the ball, they released Dalvin Cook, obviously. Alex Madison isn't the type of player that's going to command the type of goal line role that Dalvin Cook had. Yeah, there's a possibility he realistically throws for 650 plus pass attempts.
Yeah, he could. I mean, if Jefferson has a legendary season and Addison's a good rookie and Hawkinson's a top 5 tight end too, like the efficiency could go up and he could have 5,000 passing yards on 670 attempts or something this year.
Yeah, no, he absolutely could. He absolutely could.
Okay, so let's rip through some more comments here, and then we'll probably sign off. I'm just gonna go to the ones that are interesting to me. What are your thoughts on what positions should be more valued in a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex? High end production, wins over replacement type of assets. Drew, Canales wasn't the OC, but he basically worked alongside Waldron there. Someone in my 10 team or 10 man, 1 quarterback PPR traded AJ Brown, a 2024 first, and Smith and Jigba for Amon-Ra, Eckler, Drake London, and Pittman.
Let's dissect this real quick. So AJ Brown,
Amon-Ra and AJ are like neck and neck. So I think those 2 assets cancel each other out.
Amon-Ra and AJ cancel each other out.
They are for me. They're literally back to back in my rankings.
We're in Dynasty.
I have Amon-Ra over Olave.
In Dynasty.
And I have Garrett over AJ. So
in Dynasty,
I have my top 6 Dynasty wide receivers are Jefferson/Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Chris Olave is right after those guys.
The way I broke this down was AJ Brown in the first, more or less Amon-Ra and Drake London, and then I would much rather
have Amon-Ra and Drake London than a 1 quarterback first.
From 1 quarterback there. Brown. I will say it's 10 man, so for what it's worth. But yeah, no, I agree. I thought that was a super flex, but even if we cancel that out, though, regardless, I would rather JSN over Eckler and Pittman. So, regardless, I prefer.
But then the way I broke it down is Amon-Ra and AJ equal each other, London and Smith and Jigba equal each other. Then it's a first for Eckler and Pittman. And if I'm contending, I'll take Eckler and Pittman there.
Yeah, it's just a disconnect because I definitely don't think AJ and Amon for me are even in terms of.
Well, even if they aren't, the difference between London and Smith and Jigba is the difference for me.
Fair. Okay, so AJ Brown and Smith and Jigba, Amon-Ra and Drake. Yeah, okay, and then Eckler and Pittman for the first. Yeah, no, I would.
It's probably fair
for the right side.
Probably a fair deal.
So it took me a second to actually break that down because it is a fascinating deal. I'm confused because it's like. You got win now assets and like younger assets on each side of the packages. Like you got Amon-Ra and Eckler on one side with also Drake London. And on the other side, you have like AJ Brown along with a first and JSN. It's like I would expect like one team to be getting like the win now assets in the deal because it kind of just feels like you guys are swapping like equivalent market value. It's just basically what stance you want to stay on.
Yeah, I guess if your stance was like Drake London's undervalued, then maybe you make that trade or something like that. You know what I mean? He got 2 new offensive weapons. Yeah, no, I think the Seahawks offense will be good. I just don't think Geno Smith will be great from a fantasy perspective relative to people's expectations. I would rather have Kirk Cousins and some of those other guys. He's definitely still going to be solid from a fantasy perspective. And also top 10 in red zone pass attempts. Don't think that continues. I think that they will run a lot more in the red zone with K Walker and his second year and Charbonnet coming in. I don't think they're going to pass as much in the red zone.
We got to think that in terms of last year, Rashad Penny the year prior was one of the more efficient red zone running backs in the entire NFL. And he got hurt by week 5 last year?
Yeah, so it's possible that they pivoted out of necessity because they had a young running back. And Walker, for what it's worth, like kind of looked like he was a rookie last year. Like he had moments where he wasn't really finding the holes and that kind of stuff. And that could be why they brought in Charbonnet. Maybe everybody's assuming they bring in Charbonnet to be the receiving back, but it's possible they also brought him in to be the hammer because he's more decisive than Walker.
I agree with you there. Let me see if I can find exactly how efficient Rashad Penny was in the red zone a couple years ago. Because
I'll rip through some while you're waiting for that. Ryan says he just traded Stroud and Hunt for Jared Goff, Kamara, and a first rounder. I'm very pleased with it. So, I mean, Goff and Stroud. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between those 2 guys, but yeah, I think that's a pretty solid trade. It depends where that one is. If that's a mid first or better, then I think that's a great trade there. Sammy says inbox offer, get Sky Moore, Rashad White, Jake Ferguson in a mid-second. Give Carr, Evans, Schultz, and Keontae Ingram. Yeah, dude, I like the Sky Moore, Rashad White side of this.
So I found it. So 12 goal line carries, 3 goal line rushing touchdowns with a 58% rushing success rate in the final 4 weeks of 2021 when he had his hot streak to end the season. So they wanted to use him in that regard starting last year. And then obviously because he's Rashad Penny, he just couldn't stay healthy.
Facts. What's going on, Brock? Is Trey Lance worth investing into in Dynasty Superflex, and also what would be his trade value? So late
We
first,
talked
early
about
second,
this.
give or take, is his trade value if you believe in him, which I don't. So I'm more on the early second side of that. And I still don't think he's worth investing into as it currently stands. Maybe because like the word is that Purdy's gonna be ready, and the value's starting to go down for Trey Lance. Maybe this is the time you invest in him. But I would say that there might still be times where he's worth less. Where if Purdy is actually starting, which I think he will be, then Trey Lance might be worth nothing on the open market. Like you might be able to get him for very, very little.
It just makes no sense to trade the liquidity of a first right now, given the uncertainties and given the downside risk at hand. Obviously, if he starts, he would be worth the investment. But the problem is that that's such a murky situation that you don't have to make that bet at this point, especially at current market value. Again, if you can buy for a second or maybe even like, a mid-projected second and like a mid-projected third, yeah, no, I'm willing to get to part with that. But the first is just not something I'm willing to put on the table at this current point for something that murky.
Yeah, I'd be even hesitant to give up an early second, just the way that things are currently trending right now. Just because I think that there's still room for his value to decrease. If Purdy is the starting quarterback for the 49ers, regardless of what you think of Trey Lance and if he gets traded to a different team and that kind of stuff, he's going to be dirt cheap during the season if Brock Purdy is starting games.
I mean, if we look at the progression of his ADP alone in terms of startup mocks, like if we were to look at our startup mocks, literally in March, there's a guy going in the 4th, 5th round area, and now he's going.
I mean, which was too high, but still,
that shows the market sentiment has soured on him,
right?
Because that was before maybe Brock Purdy misses some time, the elbow injury.
Well, we were all thinking too, like, oh, what a nice story Brock Purdy was. Like, not he's going to actually be the starter of this team.
Yeah, which is still wild, but I mean, I digress on that.
Remember when you traded me him for a late first or a late third, sorry, during the season, Brock Purdy?
Yeah, but that basically adds up on the fact that you add that valuation to our deal, it looks a little
right, where I gave you Hurts for Fields and Kittle or whatever the trade was, but
oddly enough, that late third that you gave me, dude, was the pick that I gave you for Purdy for. So you gave me that third for Purdy, and then I gave you back the third and the deal with Hurts and Kittle. So basically, if you just supplement that third for Purdy, the deal was Purdy, Fields, and Kittle for Hurts and Goddard, which it's more stomachable for both of us if we just kind of combine the deals.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the reason I made that trade is because I was like 13-1 in the regular season, and Jalen Hurts was injured, and I was literally fucked at quarterback if I didn't trade for another quarterback. And Fields at least was elite enough that I got decent. I still regret that trade though, because I wanted Jalen. I would rather have Jalen Hurts now, obviously.
No, I troll you all the time, but realistically, in your situation, you literally had no choice. You were a competing team. Your quarterback was not playing. And guess what? Another underrated factor, when you have to make a trade come fantasy playoffs, your market
it's smaller. There's not as many teams you can trade with.
Because whoever you're actually trading with, anybody in the playoffs is not going to be trading with you because they're going to be competing with you. So then you got to look to the teams that are eliminated. And guess what? Out of eliminated teams, not many have an incentive to make a deal come week 16 of the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, and not many of them have a quarterback playing really well too. Because I mean, I could have traded for like Justin Herbert instead of, but he wasn't playing well. So why would I you know what I mean? You need a guy that's also going to give you good point production. Because why would I trade Hurts away for Justin Herbert, who's going to give me 17 points per game or whatever he was giving you last year? So, Rylan says thoughts on my team 12. Bush sniping me at every turn. So, Bijan, Lamb, Diggs, Daniel Jones, Calvin Ridley, George Pickens. I mean, I like kind of the framework that you built out. I don't love Trey Lance day one. I think you could have gotten him way later than that. And I probably would have loaded up on one more running back where you took Trey Lance. Maybe you could have gotten, I don't know, Aaron Jones at that point, and that would have made your team a little bit stronger. But I think pretty decent, give or take.
Yeah, I would say so. Or maybe because obviously you have a super, super strong wide receiver core. I personally would have just taken a quarterback at the 1-2 turn. I guess maybe you didn't feel comfortable with taking Kyler because you had Bijan, so that's a fair rebuttal. But that's actually a tough place to be in because obviously Deshaun Watson would have been a home run pick for you if he did fall, but Chase sniped you. You kind of just got unlucky because realistically, you're going to take Bijan, and if you had Kyler and Bijan on the same team, it kind of defeats the purpose of taking the Bijan pick.
Yeah, I also would 100% have taken Tua Tagovailoa over Daniel Jones too.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah,
would too.
You could have gone. Could you have gone Hill? Oh no, you couldn't have gone Hill. I was gonna say, could you have gotten Hill and Tua at the 3-4 turn? But I guess he was gone.
I mean, even Diggs and fucking Tua does the same thing for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess it's a interdivision there. So Brock said he took his first Christian Watson share. I haven't been scooping a lot of him, to be honest, but in the late fourth, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
That's the thing. I basically was talking with Brock, and I said it's like his current valuation. Even though I like Christian Watson, I would say in terms of overall redraft market, like he's probably going to be going on in the 5th, 6th round of real redraft leagues, and I'll be taking him there every fucking time. Like once you get to your home leagues, these guys are like, oh, the uncertainty and this and that. Like, yeah, he's going to fall there. He's a guy where I'm comfortable taking him at the 4 or 5 turn. But his price on underdogs like early 4th or early 4th round, or sometimes at the 3-4 turn.
It's partially because he's a spike week receiver, but
yeah,
I do think he's a little overpriced on underdog. But in home leagues, you could get him probably in like the 5th, 6th round.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
he's kind of like the Gabriel Davis of last year, where Gabriel Davis was like an early 4th rounder on underdog, but more of like a 5th, 6th rounder in home leagues.
Yep. No, I agree with you there. Speaking of home leagues, I cannot wait for drafts within a month. Yeah. Fun.
Bobcat said, if the NFL were to add a team from Canada, would you switch teams also?
No.
Would I switch teams? Probably not. But would I absolutely vote or root for my Canadian team? Yeah, I would 100%. Like they'd be like my second favorite team. I hate when people have like favorites and second favorites, but they'd probably be like the team that I really, really follow. And Toronto is the best and easiest answer for this because we're the biggest. Like Toronto is bigger than most cities in the United States for starters. I don't know how much you guys know about Canada, but like Toronto's is like huge. Up there with like Chicago and like big cities like that in terms of like size, population, and like the amount of infrastructure in Toronto. So yeah, the Toronto would be the easy answer, and it wouldn't even be close. I don't think.
Toronto's population is like what over fucking how many people? I mean, we're not counting the greater Toronto area, but just Toronto, the city alone, has over 3 million people. No.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. How many U.S. cities are bigger than Toronto? The answer is 2. New York and Los Angeles.
I was literally going to say those are the 2, right? Yeah. No, and I was going to add, by the way, it would be similar to how I view the Toronto Raptors right now. I'm a Los Angeles Lakers fan because when I started watching basketball, Kobe Bryant was in his peak, and I just fell in love with the game. He made me fall in love with the game. That was back in the mid to late 2000s. Obviously, they were a successful team at the time, but that wasn't really the reason. It was just because I was a Kobe Bryant fan. However, as long as the Raptors are not playing against the Lakers, I want them to win. I want the city to be happy. I want the overall morale of where I am to feel good because there's a lot of Raptors fans around me. And realistically, when they're winning and those people are happy, it even brightens my mood. You know what I mean?
Like, it was dude. The Raptors championship run was fucking electric. And for what it's worth, like other than football, where there's no Canadian team, I cheer for the Toronto team of every other sport: the Leafs, the Raptors, the Jays. Any other sport that has a Toronto team, I will cheer for the Toronto team.
I don't actually. That's the other like part of it where the Leafs are a completely different story because I literally root for their rival. So obviously, I'm not going to want to see them.
Do you cheer for any Toronto teams like outright as your favorite team? No, because you like the Lakers in basketball, the Red Sox in baseball, and the Habs in hockey. So Danny's the wrong person to ask this question.
Cowboys in football.
This would be a legitimate discussion for me because I cheer for Toronto teams in every other sport. Yeah. And I absolutely would cheer. Like they would be like borderline my favorite team in football.
I know there's going to be that one person watching the stream is going to be like, Danny, why do you cheer for all the most popular sports?
You do.
Which I do, but that's not the reason why I cheer for them. I feel like people will generalize that because some people will actually just cheer for them because of popularity. But
well, like, the Habs one kind of makes sense because like the Habs were not good when you were a kid. So like, I don't know why you cheer for the Habs.
I cheer for the Habs. Quite frankly, you want to know, I'm a little shit. And everybody in my family was a Leafs fan. And I was kind of like that guy that had to like go against the grain, if you will.
Yeah, I feel that.
Brock. Okay. Yeah, I'm a Kentucky basketball fan because when I started watching Kentucky basketball was when John Wall and Boogie were on the team in 2009. Like
Yeah. So
I know old ball when I
you
started
do have
watching.
the like you cheer for all the popular teams thing though.
All of them have like their reasonings. Like it was either a player or a play style or something that I like just fell in love with, and I just stuck with them. And
The other thing that you got to
I've been
keep in
loyal.
mind is the Canadian television, like they're going to push the high market teams on us.
Yeah,
A
that's
little bit.
another
Like,
point.
I mean, the broadcast like requirements say that they push Canadian teams on us, but other than our Canadian teams, they're gonna like we're gonna see Lakers and Red Sox and Yankees. Like that's just they're the teams that we're gonna get
Cowboys,
pushed
yeah.
because they're the biggest teams in the world.
Well, you put on any type of show segment, and for what it's worth, actually, I was watching a video recently. I'm not sure if you watched this yet, Bush, but Brett Coleman basically made a video about how sports media is completely changing, and it was basically a video on ESPN and all their layoffs, and he went in depth as to like what exactly is the reason why these companies are laying off. Well, ESPN, the reason why it laid off a bunch of people is because Disney Plus is a massive failure and has lost over $1.5 billion. So
Really?
yeah, Disney has to make cuts, and
Didn't
ESPN
know
was the
that.
easiest way for them to make cuts. But the other thing is, look at how people absorb sports media content now versus back then. Back in the 2000s, even early 2010s, it did not matter what was said or the type of quality of content that was on your network, whatever you were watching, whether it was ESPN, whether it was Fox, whatever the case may be. Did not matter the quality of content. It was the only available content, so everybody watched it and they saw great ratings. Guess what now? With YouTube, with TikTok, with all these other fucking types of sports media content outlets, there are higher quality content available and better form content available than the classic debate show where people are yelling at each other.
And before the commercial break, they're like, okay, I'm going to take this stance. You take that stance.
Yeah. No,
which is so annoying. Like, I know some of you guys are like, you guys should disagree more. And like, maybe we should just play devil's advocate more, but necessarily disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing is something I'm just never going to do.
No, 100%. Like, because that's the thing, though. People's or ideology for what sports media content is for the longest time was literally just a combative type of relationship. And quite frankly, I mean, the actual feeling that you get from the video should matter more than the actual topic at hand. So for example, if someone's just disagreeing on a topic to disagree, that's going to bring a negative energy. Whereas the positive energy, when you're giving a well-detailed explanation, you got chill vibes and the setting's nice and the production values there, the consumer is going to feel a lot more comfortable with the content. And I feel like that's, again, where the case has been now, that people will watch stuff that uplifts them now versus back then people were just watching the sports media that had the negativity because there was no other alternative.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, GDLT says he's a Ritter believer. Yeah, I mean, completion percentages is sometimes not the best stat to go off of, but I mean, he looked okay in spurts. I think Pickett was definitely better though, as at the end of his rookie season. Olave/QJ for Mark Andrews and a mid to late first. Tight end premium. So in a tight end premium league, is Mark Andrews close enough to Chris Olave that the mid to late first just cancels out QJ?
Well, I mean, I would rather QJ than a mid to late first, and I'd rather Olave.
You would rather have QJ than a mid to late first?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what I rate him as. I wouldn't say I would rather have him that. I would just, that's
sorry, that's what I'd rate him as. I'd probably have him closer to the mid first than the late first, though.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Andrews in a tight end premium. If this is a 1 point tight end premium, like it's 2 points per reception for tight ends, then maybe I favor the Andrews side. But I think I like Olave QJ if it's not.
Well, I mean, I'll ask you this question now. If you had to pick which asset you wanted right now, let's just say you're in your draft and that mid to late first ends up being the 107, which is even on the higher side of things, right? You would be debating like QJ with names like, I'm assuming Igbuka and Harrison are off the board. Probably debating between him, Neighbors, a couple of the running backs. Like, where would you rank QJ in that group? Because it is a pretty polarizing question.
Igbuka laps circles around him.
I'm assuming he's off the board by 107, though.
Yeah. I mean, Neighbors is a tough. I would rather use Worthy just because I know Worthy's profile a little bit more clear because Neighbors is more of a projection. I would say that Worthy will end up being a better prospect than QJ.
So you probably value QJ more so in the late end of this.
109, 110 probably is where he would stack up just as it currently stands because a lot could change, but I would say that's probably about where it is. The other thing too is in a mid to late in a tight end premium league, Bowers is going to be probably a top 6 or top 7 pick,
right?
In the thing, and maybe JT Sanders sneaks into the back end of the first if he has a breakout season.
I will say, yeah. I mean, I guess like if you have Andrews, you don't technically need Bowers, but he's going to go
But he's
higher.
going to push
Yeah,
players down the
yeah.
board.
No,
Though.
exactly. Yeah, it's going to create more value at other positions. This is a fair deal. Honestly, if you're competing and you want Mark Andrews, again, like although I prefer Olave, like Mark Andrews is probably at most a half round behind him.
Yeah,
like
no, on a
5 or
tight
6
end premium, I
picks.
think it's a really close deal, but I do prefer the Olave side slightly.
Yeah.
Do you guys believe any more in Henry for redraft this year? Not really, if I'm being honest. I think I would need to get him in round 3 to take him in a redraft league,
I would
but that
need
won't ever happen. He's like consistently a mid-second round pick, and in home leagues, he'll probably still go in the late first, early second area.
Yeah, well, the problem that I have with him is the alternative running back options in that range. Well, I'll just show you an underdog draft real quick so you guys can get an idea of that range, right? So if I just quickly share my other screen, because I pulled it up on the clock in this one. So he currently goes, yeah, that 2-3 turn area. So obviously, like Pollard's going to go ahead of him in most drafts. I would absolutely prefer Pollard, but then I'd prefer Ramondre. I would prefer Josh Jacobs, assuming he gets his deal done. I'd prefer Breece Hall. I think it's a discussion once you get to the ETN area, but you're not getting Derrick Henry anywhere close to where you're getting Travis Etienne. So just give me the opportunity cost difference in getting Etienne at the 403 versus Derrick Henry at the 2-3 turn.
Yeah, not to mention, give me Smith, give me Olave, give me Higgins, give me Ridley, give me. I mean, that's probably where it ends for the wide receivers, but I would also rather take all 3 of the elite quarterbacks over Derrick Henry as well.
Yeah, facts. By the way, for what it's worth, low-key wish I took Lamb in this draft. I think I took Brown because I had no Brown, but kind of saucy start to this team. I'm not going to lie, but
yeah, kind of a weird. I don't know why I took Devontae Smith. I don't usually take him very often. I probably should have taken Pollard there.
That's fair. I mean, though, keep in mind we're in what 50 slow drafts at once, so we're mixing up some of the exposures too. Because my exposures right now are way too fucking top heavy, and I got to even that out. But the only way to do that is to mix up some of your picks. So
yeah, Frank Reich's a bad coach. I feel bad for the Panthers, but Bryce Young is. I mean, dude, I'm excited. He's one of the guys I'm most excited to see in preseason because I think we're just gonna look at Bryce Young and be like, oh, he just belongs in the NFL now. Like it's just not. If somebody's going to do what Herbert did a couple of years ago, by the way, in that what makes a league-winning quarterback, Justin Herbert's the only rookie to ever make that list. He had 20 points per game as a rookie, which is pretty insane.
Oh, dude, he was insane. I remember that.
So he's the only rookie to ever make that list. If there's any quarterback that's going to do it again, or at least be as good as Deshaun Watson was, because Watson was 21 points per game his rookie season before he blew his knee out, Bryce Young has a chance to do it just because, and I'm not saying it's because like Carolina has this great cast of characters around him. It's decent. The O-line's decent. The coaching is decent. It's just Bryce Young might just be that guy.
I think Anthony Richardson can push for 20 points per game.
He could. He has the rushing ability to potentially do it, but he might be an absolute like 100 passing yard per game guy. Like he might be completely useless as a passer his rookie season.
By the way, for what it's worth, I just got to go over this with Herbert because there are generally some people that are like have mixed feelings on Justin Herbert for some reason, which is ridiculous to me. This guy had 31 touchdowns on 595 attempts as a rookie in the 15 games he started. 38 on 672 attempts 2 years ago. He only had 25 on 699 pass attempts last year. That is the biggest positive fucking regression candidate I have ever heard. Like this guy's going to push.
Johnson, sure.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, what do you have? 1 touchdown on like 148 targets? Fucking
0 touchdowns, actually.
Oh, sorry, zero. Correction, my fault. But regardless, Justin Herbert, if he throws under 30 touchdowns next year on that type of volume, I will eat a sock. To be quite honest, because
you'll eat a sock, eh?
If he throws under 30 touchdowns with, we'll say the baseline is over 650 pass attempts, which I think is a very, very low end projection for what the Chargers could realistically throw, I will eat a sock because I don't think that's even possible to happen.
Here's hoping Austin Eckler rushes like 24 touchdowns and you just get so screwed.
Facts. Might have to fucking like, put it in the microwave or something. Can you even put a sock in a microwave? Comment down below if you guys know you can.
I mean, if you've done that, we might have too much time on your hands there.
Yeah.
Adam said went with a unique build at the 4 spot. I'm not going to pull it back up, but he went Herbert, Kelsey, Gibbs, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris. Too heavy on the running backs in Dynasty, in my opinion. I think you should have gone more with wide receivers there. I'm just going to skim to a couple more comments and then we'll sign out because I'd like this to be under an hour and a half for people watching it back. I have not watched the quarterback series. Danny said he's watched a little bit of it. I've heard it's been okay. The Mahomes part more so the people are interested in, and then the rest of it's kind of.
Well, I mean, no kidding. Yeah, everybody's going to be interested in the Mahomes part just because it's Mahomes. By the way, oddly enough, Brittany is more likable watching
That's
that
what I've
than
heard.
I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah, no,
Maybe they knew that was, maybe that's why Mahomes did it.
yeah,
He's
that
like,
is fair.
everybody hates my wife and family. Maybe I need to like paint them in a better light. And that's like why I'm going to do this series.
Well, the thing that always kind of irked me about it is that people were so quick to say, "Oh, Mahomes, he's the best player in the world. Like he should have this 10 out of 10 Vogue model as his fucking wife." And it's like you watch the series and like she's super supportive of everything he fucking
He
does.
married his day one. Nobody's going to fault you for
Exactly. Exactly. Not to mention, great mother, supportive of what she does. And it seems like she genuinely is trying to improve the overall area of Kansas City. They were talking about how she owns like a KC women's soccer team. They go to the games quite often. Mahomes goes out there, like just building up the overall allure of Kansas City as
It's
a
the
market,
champagne thing and like the
right?
other stuff that she's done that everybody hates about her. And I mean, like she's
But
kind of done some stupid shit, but like at the same time, it's whatever, man. Like
I
it's
mean,
none of my business.
fuck, at the end of the day, if I had a wife that fucking popped a champagne bottle for one of my accomplishments, then absolutely I'd be fucking loving that. You know
Yeah,
what I
but
mean?
which you want her to dump it on everybody in front of her.
No, but at the same time, it's like if she's celebrating something that I did and she's passionate about
Yeah.
something I'm doing, then I mean, yeah, that was a little overboard, but at the end of the day, it's showing like there's genuine fucking support and love there. So
Yeah.
yeah, people
Where
just
would you
hate
target Charbonnet if you have Walker already redraft? I mean, I hate this question. People always ask this question. No offense, Brandon, but like I'm not looking to handcuff my running backs.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna take one of them, just take one of them. That's probably what I would, because I don't want to invest a 4th or a 5th rounder in Walker and then also have to draft a 9th round Charbonnet. Like if you don't in your draft, like if you like Walker, just take Walker. If you don't like Walker at his value, then just fade him and take Charbonnet later. That's basically the way I look at it.
Yep, pretty much.
Drew says 12 team half PPR start 10. Would you trade Deontay Johnson for Kendre Miller and Jalen Warren?
No,
I'd probably want a little bit more
start
than
10.
that.
I'm good.
Devontae plus JMO for Amari plus Charbonnet and a mid first.
Oh, the package easy.
Yeah, I'll take the package there as well.
For
Thanks
E's
for the
sake,
input, guys. No problem, Red.
Well, let's just look at it, right? Give or take, JMO and Sharbs are probably about even for you. Give or take.
Yeah, I would prefer Charbonnet, but yeah, it's pretty even.
And then it's Amari and a mid first for Devontae. Just from a leverage perspective, you have to take that dude. Take that package. Like the process there is you're getting similar, if not better, point production from Amari Cooper, and you're profiting a mid first for either buying power or to potentially get
just replenish youth because you
drafted,
you traded away the younger receiver.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Devon says 12 team full PPR super flex 1.5 tight end premium. Dolchich for McBride and Wandale. Give me Dolchich here. I don't think McBride moves the needle very much for me, and Wandale is also not really moving the needle much.
So Brock just tweeted out that Mahomes got extended, or not Mahomes, Barkley got extended.
Saquon got extended, ? He said.
When?
That's what he just said.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it.
He said Saquon got extended, ? I don't know where this is. I don't see this. Do we have real? Nobody has tweeted this for my.
I didn't see that. Oh, some Giants insider. Link it to me, Brock. Link it. I'll pull it up.
Okay, interesting. I mean, that it doesn't shock me that they would get it done at the 11th hour if that's what's going to happen, because I've kind of been on record saying that I think Saquon's going to get extended this whole time. And I think there was just semantics going on, but I'd be very happy to know that because I have Saquon on a couple of competitive dynasty teams, and I've drafted a shit ton of them in underdog drafts too.
Dog, on the quick sidebar, but Madden ratings are actually fucking horrific. Dude, top 10 wide receivers got released, bro. Terry McLaurin and DeAndre Hopkins have a higher rating than AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb.
I mean, we always stand Terry McLaurin getting some recognition, but DeAndre Hopkins over CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown's pretty fucking ridiculous.
Amari Cooper over fucking CeeDee Lamb too. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's not great.
That's jokes.
Dude, anybody thinking that Madden was going to do anything other than just like look at the name value of players and put them as a high rated? Madden is like 2 to 3 years, but Madden is every casual redraft player that's in your league that drafts the name value team. every year.
No. Oh, 100%. Dude, do you ever have that one guy in your fantasy leagues when you were younger?
I know exactly which guy it is in my fantasy league.
That would look at Madden ratings to have like tiebreakers?
Probably, yeah.
Dude, no count though. Fucking, especially in like the mid 2010s, bro. People would just like use any type of logic to get tiebreakers done.
Oh, yeah.
Did we do this, by the way?
Yeah. I
Oh,
said I would probably go
Dolchich.
Dolchich
Yeah,
there.
easy,
McBride
yeah.
not moving the needle. What do you guys think about third round reversal in startups? I think it makes sense to balance out the early, positional advantage that you get from Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, etc. But I don't think it does a good enough job of it. Just screws the guys in the middle of the draft, in my opinion. Because you're getting a lower end, high end quarterback in Lawrence or something, but you're also then not getting a high or a mid pick later on. So for me, I don't mind it, but I think I prefer just regular startups.
By the way, Brock, the tweet that you sent me, I'm pretty sure Wesley Steinberg is a bait account.
He got screwed.
I recognize the name.
Think Herbert or Burrow has better rushing upside. Burrow does because he runs more in the red zone than Herbert. Yep. Herbert theoretically is more athletic than Burrow. He doesn't run as much as Burrow does, though.
Yeah, facts. All right, where do we leave
I see A-Rich going before Bryce in so many drafts, but experts were way higher on Bryce. Yeah, I think Bryce is a better quarterback. Fantasy-wise, it gets tricky because Richardson could just run and not be that good of a quarterback, but I want a guy that's got long-term job security, and I think Bryce Young is going to be one of the better rookie quarterbacks we've seen in the last 10 years from like the production he puts out there. So I do still prefer Bryce in Dynasty startups, but Richardson goes higher by every other person that you're going to ask. So I would take Richardson higher knowing that he has higher market value.
Yeah, or better yet, just
trade down. Trade down if you're on the board at 2-2 and you're like, I want to take Bryce Young, but it's too early. You don't need to take him that high. Trade down a little bit to 2-6, 2-7. Still get Bryce Young and pick up a future second and a pick swap in the startup.
Yeah, well, I told you what I did in my one league. I actually ended up selling Bryce because I'm probably gonna get Caleb Williams next year, and I already had Josh Allen, so I just didn't want overinvestment. But regardless, like before I sold Bryce, I basically moved A-Rich and Freiermuth for Bryce and Brandon Ayuk, and I thought that was a good type of transition there.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, we've talked about this trade before. I think it was pretty solid. Brett Mahomes over Pat Mahomes, hot take and a half right there. Yeah. Let's say you had an opportunity to be an NFL scout for a team. Would you take it and leave YouTube? No. Can I only scout fantasy relevant positions? Yeah. I feel like I would be horrible at scouting offensive linemen.
And I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy scouting players. Don't get me wrong, but I would rather enjoy just what we're doing right now, to be honest.
Yeah,
maybe it sounds like
gotta
weird,
grind to be an NFL scout.
The thing, man.
Like you're on the road most of the year, and you're watching like film like 2 years in advance. Like it's not.
Do I want to watch 10 hours of film a day?
Every second of it to do that job.
Do I want to watch 10 hours of film a day, or do I want to do what I'm doing? Is basically the question is, and I would much rather do what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. How much would you all be willing to pay on top of Kyler Murray for Hurts? Probably a first, a second, and a small piece, maybe.
I'd offer 2 ones.
You'd offer 2 ones? I think that's fair. I think I would want I think that's what he should go for, but I think I would want to get Hurts for a first, a second, and a small piece.
The thing is, though, is if I was moving off of Hurts, I don't even know if I would take 2 ones.
Right, but the question is how much are you willing to pay on top of Kyler Murray?
No, I know. I'm saying Kyler. I'm saying, okay, so I would be willing to give 2 ones, but I'm saying in terms of market value, if it was the inverse and I had Hurts, what would you need on top of Kyler?
I'd probably want
3.
I'd probably want Kyler, 2 ones, and maybe in a tight end premium league, you take like Freiermuth or something like that on top. Like I need something in addition.
So like 3 ones of equivalent value.
Maybe not 3 ones, but like 2 ones and an early second of value, probably.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, it's crazy when you say what would you be willing to pay versus what you would be willing to sell for, because usually like there's a pretty vast divide, especially when it comes to quarterbacks in particular, because the quarterbacks are tricky. If I'm selling a quarterback, I need an overpay, and if I'm buying a quarterback, sometimes it's tough to really overpay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Madden comes out in like less than a month, I think, and we would definitely be down to do like a franchise league. I actually have no idea how to set them up. I think you do though. I think we're covered on that, but would definitely be down to do something because Madden is actually for PC, so I'm actually going to get it now. Well, I mean, it's been for PC in years past, but the next gen version is for PC this year. I, however, do refuse to play Ultimate Team now. Because that's what I always played before. But it's so pay to win. It's so annoying. Mom's credit card, kids running the whole fucking show. I can't play it anymore. So I'm just going to do franchise and play nows, I think.
Yeah, facts, dude. Realistically, if you're not spending at least $1,000, you're not competing in that fucking mode anymore.
Not just $1,000, $1,000 every couple months, probably.
Yeah. It's insane, man. It's insane.
It's the worst.
Same
Like,
thing with
I can't
FIFA
play
now
all
too.
anymore. They've made it too pay to win. Like, I get making it a little pay to win, get the good packs and that kind of stuff. But dude, the pack bundles are $150 each, and you have to buy one like once every 2 weeks to keep your team relevant.
Not to mention, like, the players that you get in those fucking packs are going to be 50% cheaper fucking a week later. You know what I mean?
No, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's throwing your money down the toilet playing Ultimate Team. But I think franchise will be better this year, and I want to get involved in some play now, like trying to climb ranks and that kind of thing.
Game.
So that's probably what I'm going to try and do this year.
Yeah.
The trolls are evolving. Yeah, their name used to be Bend Over or some shit. Started my startup with Hurts at 105, then traded my first, my third, my fifth, and my ninth to snag Murray at 206. Do we like that move? I think you could have probably got Murray in the third round, realistically, given his value. And I wouldn't have wanted to give up that much to go up and get Murray, at least as it currently stands, where his value's at.
It's a little steep given the market value.
I think it'll pay off, but I don't think you needed to give up that much.
Yeah, so for equating it, it's just a lot of leverage in the startup.
Yeah. Getting an extra third and a fifth, man. Like, you're talking Devontae Smith and Jordan Addison, plus a first, plus a ninth.
What would your feelings be if this was the third, a seventh, and the ninth?
I think that's about fair then.
Yeah.
I think the fifth is the part that I'm like, that's a little much.
Agreed. Or better yet, if it was a fourth, a fifth, and a ninth, I'd be more willing to do that. But it's just giving up the third and the fifth is a little tough for me. It's a little tough.
Yeah.
And I love going quarterbacks. I love going up and getting secure anchor quarterbacks. I just think, given the market value that we usually see, you probably get a guy like, for example, the Lamar Jackson trade I made in our league. I got Hurts at the 103, and then I ended up trading up for Lamar Jackson. I think it costed my second, my fourth, and my 2024 first for Lamar, who I'd much prefer over Kyler right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm in the minority here, but I think
he said I have Kittle, Kelsey, and Kittle. Nobody wants Kittle. I'm holding. What kind of rookie draft capital should I look for in return of Kittle? I actually don't hate rostering both, but doing my due diligence. I think I would want a mid first in a tight end premium, a late first, and a non-tight end premium for Kittle.
Or better yet, what's the market value right now in your league for Kelsey?
Yeah, I would actually. That's where I'm at too. I would probably just rather sell Kelsey
because I think he'll probably net you more if people are worried about Kittle.
Way more, and he's going to outscore Kittle this year, but it's not going to be outrageous. I don't think.
Yeah, no. I mean, even if it is outrageous, he's still 34 years old, and there's every bit of the possibility he shows decline down the stretch. Even if he has a 1,300-yard year, dude, if he shows like any type of decline in the playoffs and the Chiefs are like bounced out in the divisional round, like the guy's going to lose a ton of market value, even if he has a good regular season.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean?
Ryan says he thinks that Hurts is one of the biggest sells in recent fantasy football history.
Wow. I mean, I get the sentiment.
Let's paint a picture. How does Hurts bust?
In terms of redraft, he doesn't. I understand the sentiment because he's changing his offensive coordinator, and he had 13 rushing touchdowns last year. And I guess you can say, given the market value right now, that Herbert, Burrow, are better long-term bets, and Lamar Jackson, if he's healthy, is just a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I understand that. However, I will say the Eagles have the best offensive personnel in the NFL. I think that's pretty easily. They have the best offensive line in the NFL. They have probably the best weapons group in the NFL. Would you say A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert?
I'd say they have the best wide receiver duo in the NFL, but their running backs and
I mean, the only wide receiver duo.
Goddard, you got him in there. He's obviously going to add to it. I don't think this is an outrageous take. If you wanted to say you prefer Burrow because he's just a better real life quarterback and longevity wise, you think it'll play itself out. Then I don't think that's outrageous. But I will say, like, I don't consider him a sell. But it is possible that he runs less, or he has less rushing efficiency, or maybe passing he overperformed last year, or whatever the case is, and he's not viewed in the same light as he is right now as one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, the clear 103 in startups. Yeah. I think that's possible.
Yeah. Well, hypothetically, if somebody came to your table right now, you had Jalen Hurts, and they said, listen, I will give you Justin Herbert and a 24 first round pick. We'll say mid projected. Are you taking that?
No.
No, so you would take Jalen Hurts there.
I think so. Yeah.
At what point would you trade Jalen Hurts? Like, what
A
would you
mid
need?
first and a solid piece, probably.
So, what would that be like? Herbert first and like, Tyler Lockett,
Probably somebody better than that.
Mike Williams.
Probably about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Give or take.
okay, fair enough. So basically, about a 24 1 and 2 of value, you would say is the difference in tier between. I would say Hurts is kind of on right now in terms of market value. Like, what's the difference in between Hurts and Burrow for you? Because I don't view a big difference
There's
between
not a
Burrow and
big
Herbert.
difference. I think they're about the same for me.
So you have a big difference between Burrow and Herbert then.
Yeah, I have the way my tiers are structured is like Mahomes and Allen are worth like 5 first-round pick kind of like value, like they're untouchable pretty much. And then Burrow and Hurts are 4 first-round picks of value.
Fair. Personally, for me, I think Herbert by the end of this year is going to enter that group. So I'd be more
That's
willing
possible.
to,
Yeah,
to,
I think
to
that's
tear down
reasonable.
there.
I mean, he's younger than Burrow, and he's like the same type of projection.
Oddly enough, I actually think I offered what's it called? I think I actually offered Brock a deal in our no Flocken league for Herbert. I offered him. Let me see if I can find it. He ended up declining, but I offered him Brock G. I proposed him. So Jalen Hurts, Chris Godwin, and Brandon Cooks for Justin Herbert, Cooper Kupp, and Christian Kirk because I'm trying to win now.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad.
So yeah. So basically, the difference there would be upgrading Godwin to Kupp and upgrading Cooks to Christian Kirk, and that was the difference between Herbert and Hurts. And realistically, would you say that there's a first a difference there? Probably a late first a difference there between Cooks, Godwin versus Kirk and Kupp.
Yeah, probably about a late first difference.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I even gave a better deal than a mid first, and he declined that one. So,
interesting.
He's also higher on Herbert as well.
Yeah,
so
for sure. We're winding down the stream. Yeah. Bobcat, thanks for bringing the off-topic questions. I kind of appreciate them sometimes. They're fun to veer off into. Any tips to keep a dynasty league from dying? I would say make sure you're playing with people that want to be there. It's as much fun as it is to play a dynasty league with your home league buddies. I've tried it and it didn't work. It's much better playing in dynasty leagues with people that want to be there. So join our Discord, get involved with people that want to be there. And 1 or 2 orphans every year, that can happen. But 6 people wanting to leave the league, that's when you didn't scout the league mates properly in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, trying to run a dynasty with people that in real life that aren't fully committed to dynasty is going to have some future problems. Because I am in a dynasty league right now where it was all of our fucking high school buddies and we all play redraft together. And maybe 4 of those guys check the app in the off season. Maybe 4 or 5.
That would be the case in my league as well. If like we started a dynasty league with my home league buddies and they're just so into the redraft mindset that the second they're not winning, they want to leave the league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not in the like productive struggle mindset, and you kind of need players to think long-term that way and be willing to invest in something for multiple years. And sometimes people just aren't wired that way from a fantasy perspective and they just want to play redraft and redraft alone.
Yep. Any underrated defenses for redraft? I'm gonna keep it a stack hunter. None of my leagues run with defenses, so I have no clue.
Pick defenses for teams that have a lot of good, talented players on them, and that they throw the ball a lot on offense. That means the opposing team is gonna have to throw the ball a lot.
Yep.
So I mean, even though the Chiefs and like some of those teams, the Chargers and stuff like that, aren't like the best defenses in the world, they're gonna score fantasy points if the opposing offenses are trying to have to play catch up there. Ryan said, I traded Hurts for Dak Higgins in a first. That's a pretty decent return, although it sucks giving up Hurts. Like, even though that's a good return, I would still not feel great about trading Hurts away.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. I don't spend my money on Alto team and I'm able to build a good enough team. You must play the game a lot more than I do.
Grinding solos then. That's the only other option.
Realistically,
what I wish was the case was head-to-head rewards were good, and they're not. They're shit.
They're not.
You could be cracked at head-to-head and your rewards are shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep it a buck. If I'm going to hop on a Madden, FIFA, whatever, I'm playing the game to play against someone else and to try to rank up in terms of divisions or rank or whatever.
Or weekend league in Madden's case.
I'm not playing the game to throw for a 50-yard touchdown in a solo challenge. I'm sorry. Yeah. I just don't want to do that. Or I don't want to have a solo challenge where I'm kicking a 56-yard field goal. Like, I'm sorry. I can't do that. I can't grind 40 of those things in a day. Like, I guess, like, if you're listening to music and you're not taking it, sure, like, I don't know. If I'm playing the game though, I just want to be able to beat someone.
There's always the realization when I'm grinding solos that I'm like, I'm actually investing time into building a fake team right now. Like, that's when it clicks to me that, like, this is a fake team that isn't worth anything. Like, an ultimate team, yeah, it's fun to build up a great ultimate team. But the second I'm like grinding solos and dropping money on it, I'm like, this is a fake virtual team that I'm building right now.
Yeah. Whereas
And it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but I would rather build it by playing the game.
Well, again, that's what I kind of realized like at the end of this year too. Because even at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, I spent money on the game.
Oh, I do. There's years on Madden where I've spent like $2,000 on the game. Like, it's a waste of money, especially the year of COVID. Like, I built out like a monster team and I spent a lot of money on the game, but it literally benefited my life in very little ways.
I remember because that was the year that you spent a lot of money on the game. You were opening the bundles. I remember I opened one bundle and I got a fucking LTD, and you were like, "Bro, fuck you."
Yeah, I got one LTD that entire year, by the way. Spent $2,000 at least on the game.
It's crazy because I pulled like fucking like 3 golden tickets and like 3 LTDs within like a 2-year stretch.
Yeah, that stuff is easy to do when I was working full time, work from home, and I didn't pay rent to my parents. And now I live on my own, so I have to pay rent. And it's like I can't fathom spending $2,000 on Madden anymore.
Well, realistically, it's just as enjoyable to hop in a franchise mode and do a fucking franchise draft. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like do a rebuild, do a fucking play now game against somebody with the team that you know their playbook backwards and forwards, and you can develop a scheme for and that kind of stuff. To me, that's what I'm going to focus on in Madden this year. I'm done. I'm done chasing the ultimate team highs of pulling heat players out of packs.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you really want to play with all these legends? Just download a fucking legends roster and do a fantasy draft with it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's satisfying, you know, when you build out a sick ultimate team. But man, like you have to spend so much time and money to do it.
Yeah, like realistically, it's so funny because the money I spent on fucking like sports games this year probably could have bought in like 3 or 4 fucking PS5s. Realistically,
yeah.
Like if you're actually doing the math, man, like it's fucked.
It's bad. Anyways,
couple more questions that we'll head off.
We don't got really much going on else after that. We are going to head off here. We going for an hour and 45 minutes. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. The rest of the week, the schedule that we're going to kind of bring you guys, like I said, our redraft rankings manifesto is going to be coming out very soon. That'll be live on the site probably by Wednesday or Thursday. Hopefully, I don't know if Price 33 is in the chat right now. I'm going to reach out to you to help us make the checklist again this year. And then also, tomorrow is going to be what makes a league-winning running back. So the quarterback version video that I did last week, running backs will be tomorrow. Wide receivers will be next week. Tuesdays, going forward, there'll be those videos. On Wednesday, I'm going to break down like the biggest storylines to watch in training camp for every team. And then starting on Thursday, we're going to break down some of our redraft rankings tier list format because training camp is opening and we're going to want to update those in August, obviously. But we want to get a preliminary set of rankings going for those of you guys that are doing underdog drafts, or for if you guys are doing your home league drafts really early, because we're probably not going to update them until like mid-August when like the preseason's done kind of thing. So definitely stay on the lookout for all that stuff. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff as well. Last question, then we will sign off here. Romsey says, got offered London Stroud and a mid to late first for my Garrett Wilson and Kyler. Yes, you should have Garrett Wilson and Kyler significantly above the rest of that package there. So appreciate all you guys for tuning in. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.